Hi, I'm Ania Lichtarowicz, and this is Somewhere on Earth, and it's Tuesday, the 21st of October, 2025. We're in London with voices from the UK and Ukraine. And today we have a special edition on cybersecurity. Listener Adam Collins emailed us and asked, with a rise of high-profile cybersecurity breaches in recent months, such as Marks & Spencer, Co-op, JLR, and the airports, I'm conscious of trying to improve my security, particularly on passwords, in case I get impacted by a breach. I was wondering if you had considered doing an episode on cybersecurity, as I expect this would be helpful for all the listeners, and new ones too. Adam, thank you for your email. This episode is inspired by your question and is for you and all our listeners looking to stay safer online. And coming up today. This week, Somewhere on Earth is talking to two experts right at the cutting edge of cybersecurity. Professor Oli Buckley from Loughborough University in the UK, who will explain who is behind recent cyber attacks and what these attacks look like, and why digital housekeeping is more important than ever. Also joining the show is Iryna Volnytska, president of SET University in Ukraine, who will share how her country is defending itself from cyber attacks and how SET University is training the next generation of cyber security experts. Whether you're an individual looking to protect yourself online or just curious about the bigger picture of cybersecurity, this episode is packed with insight and practical advice. That's all right here on the Somewhere on Earth podcast. So, our first guest is Oli Buckley, Professor of Cybersecurity from Loughborough University in the UK. Oli is a leading expert in cybersecurity and digital risk, helping individuals and organisations understand who is behind cyber attacks, what these attacks do, and how to protect themselves. Oli, thank you and welcome to the show. Lovely to have you with us. Now, in the UK, especially, there have been quite a few high-profile cyber attacks. Can you tell our global audience a little bit about those?
Yeah, thank you for having me today. It's really nice to be talking to you. So we have seen a significant, what appears to be a really significant number of incidents in the UK, high-profile cases, things like the Co-op, Marks & Spencer's, Jaguar Land Rover, all big notable brands that have had problems in recent months. I think the key thing to remember is it doesn't necessarily mean there's a huge epidemic of cybercrime targeting our beloved brands. One of the things we think about in cybersecurity is something called the fortification principle. So an attacker only needs you to have one weakness, one gap in security. And as someone trying to protect systems, you need to think of every possible eventuality. So if we think about your house at home, you need to remember to lock every single window and lock every door and turn on the burglar alarm and all those things. If you forget to leave one window unlocked, that undoes all your hard work. And that's partly what we're seeing now. Organizations are such huge, sprawling, interconnected systems. Marks and Spencer's have very complicated supply chains all across the world, as do all the other companies. And so there are lots of different individual components exposed. And if only one of those has a small vulnerability, it can cascade through the whole thing. So, yeah, so I don't think it's necessarily a huge epidemic right now. I think it's just the nature of the way the world works in terms of digital systems.
So are we seeing more cyber attacks, or are we just, have we just had a spate of more prominent ones? Because obviously a company like Marks and Spencer or Jaguar can't hide the fact that it's had a cyber attack. Suddenly people in the UK couldn't do their online shopping, or their car was delayed. I mean, it's not something they could kind of pretend wasn't happening like many companies do. They just don't admit to it.
If we take the two examples that kind of came at the same time, so Marks and Spencer's and Co-op, they came about through fairly basic lapses. So a simple social engineering type exploit, getting someone in a call center to reset something or send out a link or click on a link, and then that's your way in. I think that big brands and big names and recognizable institutions make for really good news as well. So we're going to hear about those much more. There are probably lots and lots of cyber attacks across the country most days of the week, and we don't hear about them because they're not as much of a notable name. It's hard to say whether that would be someone directly targeting big companies, but if you're a hacker and you wanted to do something to get your name out there, Marks and Spencers or JLR or Co-op, they're big brands. They will certainly give you that exposure and that notoriety, I guess.
And I guess also getting a name for yourself as a hacker, if you impact, say, airports and being able, to board a plane like we saw recently as well all across Europe. Those kind of aerospace, transport industry, they seem to be quite vulnerable as well, don't they?
Yeah. And part of the problem with trying to work out who's responsible for a cybersecurity incident is attribution is kind of the $1 million question. It's really hard to say with 100% certainty it was this person and they did it. Even if someone claims responsibility, that's not totally definitive. We often don't know for certain. So it's kind of like trying to do some detective work in the fog. You can't see exactly what's there. You can get some clues, but it's rarely straightforward that the answer is right in front of you. It might be an organised crime gang looking to make some money with ransomware, as we saw with some of the more recent ones we've talked about. It could be someone's misconfigured something and an opportunist takes advantage of that. It could be a group of hackers or activists who have got some cause they're trying to work towards, or it could be a nation state linked to testing systems or aiming to cause disruption. I guess the important thing is what we learn from the attack and how we build on that. So it's about the resilience we take forwards and not just about who we can blame for it.
Now, there's this term digital housekeeping that keeps popping up when you read articles on cybersecurity. What is digital housekeeping?
I like digital housekeeping. It's a really nice idea. It's kind of like, so in my house, we have 4 children. It gets messy very quickly. We have a lot of pets. And the equivalent would be if all my children picked up something when they saw it on the floor. So if they saw a sock that shouldn't be there or they picked up some rubbish and put it in the bin, the house would be much cleaner and much easier to maintain. And the same is true for digital housekeeping. If you do the small things like having a decent password, like using multi-factor authentication, like not clicking on attachments to emails if you don't recognise where they're from, if you get an offer that's too good to be true, you don't click on it. Those small things add up to something much bigger. And if everybody did the small things very well, it would make things a lot more resilient and a lot safer, I think. So it's about doing the small things you can do to impact the larger picture.
Now, we'll be getting some more advice on our passwords, etc., in a little while, but just a few more questions for you, Oli. What about globally? Because obviously you and I are based in the UK, and you kind of look at global attacks, and there are some kind of quite obvious ones that, oh look, North Korea's now trying to hack into this in South Korea. There are obvious things like that, but what about kind of other cyber attacks globally that have been quite impactful for people around the world?
That's one of the exciting things and one of the biggest problems brought about by the digital society we live in. We can talk to anyone and do anything around the globe. So I can sit on my computer and order something from the other side of the world and it will get shipped and all the logistics will be done through connected digital systems and that item will arrive and it'll be so easy. But all of our devices are starting to be connected around the world. And so we don't necessarily know where our data is hosted. We don't necessarily know where the server's located for the different apps and devices we use. And so it opens up that target area. It's really easy to sit in a bedroom in where I am in the middle of rural Norfolk, and I could do something with computers on the other side of the world. And the key thing to remember is it's really hard to say where these things have come from, even if North Korea say they've done it. Finding that 100% certainty is really tough. So I think we're open on a more global stage. We live in a world where we have a complicated and rapidly evolving geopolitical situation, and we're seeing pre-existing alliances or boundaries kind of shaping quite quickly, and so it's really hard to tell. It's really fast moving.
It is, isn't it? One other thing that certainly in the UK press has come up quite a lot is that these cybersecurity consultants, etc., and companies are coming out and saying, well, companies really need to be able to run their business on pen and paper. Is that at all practical when you're talking about a multinational, a global firm? Can they really go back to something that simple?
I would say that's very optimistic. I think if you look at the stock exchanges around the world, the most profitable companies are those that trade in data. So Microsoft, Google, Meta, they all trade data. So if you imagine asking Google to go to pen and paper, it'd be crazy. But even a simple supply chain like the Co-op, which is a UK-based business and not on that kind of scale, the supply chains are so complex. We have products from all over the world. Our supply chains aren't just in the UK. The fruit and vegetables come from one part of the world in a particular season, and they change. And there's so many different moving parts that it facilitates the lifestyle and society we have now, but it comes with certain risks as well. So we're moving towards the idea less of cybersecurity and ensuring nothing will ever happen, because inevitably with systems that complex and that interdependent, we're going to have a breach is likely. It's how you deal with that and how you recover. So the ability to roll over to backups or to use a different data center or to withstand that threat and still keep going. So that's kind of what I think would be a good target for businesses and organisations to be looking to.
Yeah, the Co-op is a chain of quite small supermarkets in the UK, isn't it? There are a few other branches to it as well. But yeah, the supermarkets work on such tiny margins, and, the supply chains and data and AI now all being incorporated. It does seem as though pen and paper would be too difficult, really, to use. So, Oli, thank you at the moment for that now. Next, we're going to see how we can make ourselves more secure online. The most obvious of protections is making sure that our passwords are as secure as possible. And one thing Adam asked about. So we contacted one of our regular listeners who works in IT for a major multinational company to find out what he is currently advising thousands of staff across the world to do. You might recognise him as he's been on the show before, but here is his advice.
The recommended password length and complexity has changed a little bit over the last couple of years. The National Cybersecurity Centre, which is based in the UK, recommends 3 words and a minimum length of approximately 12 characters. NIST, the American organisation, says length is the most important thing, but they say minimum of 15 characters. But both of them recommend passphrases, a combination of words. As an example, cassette, lava, baby. That's 16 characters, 3 words. Easy for us to remember, but harder for a computer to guess. People also recommend something known as leet speak, the substitution of numbers or symbols for letters. So, as an example, changing the letter A for a number 4, or even an @ sign, the letter B for an 8, or the numbers 1, 3, because if you write them close enough together, they look like a B, a 0 for an O. These are just common ones, but you can find them all online. Use a word from a different language. So if you know another language, Polish, French, German, Spanish, any other language, just throw that additional word in. It just makes dictionary attacks that much more difficult. You can try an initialism, where you take the first letter of a word in a sentence. Take a poem, for instance, and use the first letter of each word in a line in a poem. You can remember the poem, so you can write out the first letters. Take, for instance, the charge of the Light Brigade, Into the Valley of Death Road the 600. So that would be ITVODRT 600. If you come across a website where they offer multi-factor authentication or MFA, it is highly recommended that you use it. Yes, you may have to install an application on your phone to allow it, but it's just extra security. Even if somebody guesses your password, they'll still need for you to authorize them access to your account. There's guidance not just for people creating the passwords, but for companies. Don't make the passwords excessively long for users. Don't set ridiculous minimums. And don't set password expiry to be very short. Don't force your users to change your password every month. Make it every 3 months, every 6 months. Because if you force them to change it often, they will pick simple passwords. Because that's the only way they'll be able to remember them. I hope that's enough. Thank you.
So, Oli, there are key principles here with passwords, aren't they? The strong ones, the length, the complexity, randomness, changing letters for numbers, that kind of thing. What do you advise?
Yeah, passwords are interesting. They're kind of incongruous. We want them to be really long and hard to guess, but also we need to remember them. So that's really difficult. The current best practice is all about longer is better. So use a passphrase rather than a password. So we don't need something that's 10 characters long with lots of different symbols and lots of different numbers. A passphrase, people use 4 or 5 dictionary words strung together. They might use a phrase. Human brains are better at remembering stuff we're familiar with. So, having the word password and subbing in the @ symbol instead of the A and a couple of 5s and an exclamation mark at the end, that's not how we really remember and recall information. If we have something like, I don't know, the first line from your favourite book as a passphrase, you'll remember that, but the chance of it being guessed is really difficult. Having a different password for each service. If you use the same password, you're in trouble. If one service is breached, then everything else could be at risk. And I'm a big advocate for using a password manager alongside things like multi-factor authentication.
I was going to say password manager is certainly something I can't live without. A lot of our listeners will know I have dyslexia, and to try and remember what my passwords are, forget it. I cannot live without my password manager, and I really can't think how anyone could hack some of those passwords, to be honest with you.
Absolutely. You are transferring the risk of maintaining your passwords to someone else. You're putting your trust into another company, and as long as you're comfortable with that, then that's fine. I mean, the way they store them should be sufficient that we could dig into the technicalities and stuff. But I think the key is that you have to remember one password that can be really long and really strong, and then everything else, you don't need to know it. So you can change them so quickly, and you don't have to reuse them. And I think that length of password and not reusing them are the two kind of key bits of information. And then, enabling your multi-factor authentication if you can. So your authenticator app on your phone, or getting a text message or something like that to add that extra level of protection.
Thank you, Oli. Practical advice that any one of our listeners and me can implement today. Next, we're heading beyond individual security to explore national strategies in cybersecurity with someone who's shaping the future of Ukraine's cyber workforce. Iryna Volnytska, the president of SET University in Ukraine. You've heard Iryna on the show before. Last time we met, she was telling me how Ukraine is now becoming the #1 cybersecurity specialist globally. Iryna has just been in London at a major cybersecurity event and is now back in Ukraine. Iryna, it's wonderful to have you on the show again. Can you tell our listeners, really give them an overview about the types of cyber attacks Ukraine is currently facing?
Ania, it's very nice to be here again. It's almost nothing changed because Ukraine is still the most attacked country in the world in terms not only of physical attacks, kinetic attacks, but also in terms of state-sponsored attacks. We still experience the biggest number of state-sponsored attacks in the world. And I would say that it almost doubled since we talked last time. So it's increasing day by day. We still connect most of them to different APTs like Sandworm that is linked to GRU. Usually what they target government, critical infrastructure, energy, telecom, defense, with different types of attacks like malware, vipers, etc. We also had a couple of really big attacks, but it actually didn't disrupt the work of our critical infrastructure. For example, we had the attack on our main railway system, and I want to remind you that it's like the only way how we can travel to Europe because we don't have flights, airports, etc. But the good thing is that the work was disrupted maybe like for 1 hour or something, and the trains were late only 1 hour. It's like during the war with the huge attack on the railway. We also see that the attacks is changing day by day. It is becoming more sophisticated. Russian hackers, they use artificial intelligence not only like for phishing attacks, but also we saw the increase in malware that is written by artificial intelligence. So they try new approaches, but again, our expertise, I would say, not only experience, because now it's expertise, is also becoming stronger, and I believe that very soon we will be open also to share our experience with the world. So in terms of attacks on Ukraine, again, it's state-sponsored attacks, phishing. For example, if we talk also about phishing attacks, we see like my colleague mentioned that you do not click on link, etc. But what we see in Ukraine, that it's not anymore about clicking on links, because we saw a couple of attacks, phishing attacks, that that was like no clicks involved. So it's like really the complexity of these attacks is increasing like day by day.
So, Iryna, I mean, you mentioned that the attacks are getting more sophisticated by the Russian hackers, especially using AI. So I'm assuming that Ukraine and that your cyber security experts and engineers are also using AI to counter this.
Yeah, we actually try to use everything that we have, and I would say that there are a lot of partners worldwide that support us with the expertise, with different products, etc. We have a very strong public-private collaboration. Otherwise, we wouldn't survive. Because I know that that Ukraine has no money. And we have no money for protection, for defense, but because of this public-private collaboration that started just like on the first day of invasion, now we have what we call in Ukraine, it's like very unique in the world. We call it IT army. It's tech specialists who volunteered to protect, and not only to protect, but also the best protection is the actual attack. So they contribute also to the defense of Ukraine and attacking the Russia. And this is also a very unique thing in terms of cybersecurity, because it's like the army of volunteers. Recently, I think it was last week, we passed the law on cyber forces. Now we will have a cyber forces as a separate branch of armed forces of Ukraine, which also will help us to restructure our efforts. It's a very needed step also to be aligned with NATO capabilities and to develop all this. Because now what we have a very strong practical experience. But what we also need to create the policies, to link these policies to European Union policies, and that's what our country now working on.
is working towards being aligned with the EU in that. That's very interesting.
Yeah, because cybersecurity has no borders. I can tell you about a lot of attacks that were done on Ukraine, but disrupted the work all over the Europe. For example, even before the full-scale invasion, I remember the NotPetya attack, which cost like millions or billions in damages, which also started in Ukraine because Russian hackers, they test the attacks on Ukraine and then they scale it all over the world. We also had the attack on our telecom system, like Viasat, and this attack disrupted the work of wind turbines in Germany. So, like, you are not safe anywhere. And
no, you're not alone, definitely. And what about SET University? Because that's an area where SET University is really growing, isn't it? In training people, in teaching people, in creating startups in cybersecurity. You've got Cyber Labs, which is a program that you run there. You've got a few other special schemes there. Tell me a bit about those.
Yeah, it's actually not by choice.
No, obviously.
It's our response to the full-scale invasion, because when it started, we saw that it's also a cyber war. Each physical kinetic attack starts with the cybersecurity attack on Ukraine. So it's all very much connected. That's how we started also to focus on cybersecurity, because we saw that we need more talents, and it's not only about protection, but it's also about economic recovery. Because for us, like a lot of traditional industries are physically distracted, and for digital, we have a huge experience. And what we want to do, we want to transform this experience into expertise, and then to become a hub for cybersecurity, the same as Israel, for example. They also have this huge expertise, and they managed to transform this expertise into cybersecurity products, companies, etc. In Ukraine, for now, in most cases, we have only experience, but we hope with the help of SET University, we will teach how to transform it into cybersecurity products. So we work on different levels. We teach the new generation of cybersecurity specialists, hackers. We also teach the new generation of cybersecurity startup founders, and we also share our expertise with the world through startups that we already launched as a part of SET University. It's also 2 cybersecurity startups. And what we do, even all our trainings, it's not about theory. It's very practical. Again, because of the situation, so we can give them a lot of real practical work to do. And we also use cyber ranges. We provide the real world scenarios for these cyber ranges. So we try to do it as practical as possible.
Iryna, thank you very much for that. Oli, you've been listening throughout. What are your thoughts on the way that Ukraine is having to completely reposition itself and become this cybersecurity global leader now?
Yeah, I mean, sitting from the outside, it's amazing to see the resilience and the rapid expansion and deployment of skills in such difficult circumstances. It's really impressive from my point of view as someone sitting outside to see just how this capability is being developed so quickly with less than ideal circumstances. I think it's great. Yeah, it's absolutely incredible. I'm kind of lost for words almost, because I can't imagine having to do that, and it's I'm really interested to hear about how you've developed that and some of the measures you're putting in place.
It's when you want to survive, you can do impossible things. This is the best motivation.
Certainly lessons for everybody there, Iryna. So thank you both for joining us today on Somewhere on Earth, Professor Oli Buckley from Loughborough University, Iryna Volnytska from Set University, President of Set University. Thank you for joining us from Ukraine. So that's it. Hopefully, Adam, we've answered some of your questions today, from understanding who is behind cyber attacks, what they do, where they happen, why they matter, and how we can defend ourselves. There's a lot to take away. It might even inspire you to review your own cybersecurity. And if you would like to get in touch as well, you can do so via hello@somewhereonearth.co or via WhatsApp on +44 7486 329 484. Perhaps you have a burning IT question that we will try and answer for you in the coming weeks. Somewhere on Earth is a proud partner of the Evergreen Podcast Network. For more information or to check out other shows on the network, please visit evergreenpodcast.com. And a huge thank you to Roost and Sasience coming soon, our sponsors. Our production manager is Liz Tuohy. I'm the presenter this week, Ania Lichtarowicz, and the show's editor. Thank you for listening, and goodbye.